Why shouldn't you resent pushers? Well, before we get into it, I want to say a quick thank you to Kevin for letting me use this video. Check out his channel for some awesome tennis content, and I'll post a link to his channel in the description area. So let's check out Hassan here, whom I'll label the pusher. He has a pushing style of play versus Kevin here, and let's take a look at this point real quick. So in my last video, I got a lot of negative comments about pushing, about how it's just an awful game style, it's pathetic, it's for losers. There's just basically a lot of anti-pushing out there. It's not surprising, right? Part of the tennis community hates pushers. And, this type of anger towards pushers, hate for pushers, is something that I think is very weak-minded, and I don't want you to be weak-minded. And there are 3 reasons why I think this type of mentality is very weak. So let's pretend you're Kevin here projecting all this anger and hate towards Hassan's game style here of pushing. Here's one of the reasons why you don't want to have this type of mentality. And one is that you'll become very depressed, very, very depressed, to the point where you're just gonna tank. You're gonna tank this whole match probably, right? So I remember coaching a kid, high school kid, maybe UTR 8, top of the high school team. And, she was very good, obviously. She hits very hard forehands and backhands and, had problems just trying to rally with her because she hits so hard. But there was this one time where we played a practice set. And what I did was just pushed. I became the pusher, and I basically did not hit anything that was close to offensive, like no offensive shots, just everything, a continental grip, continental forehand, slice backhands, everything was just a block. And I beat her 6-0. And one of the reasons why she lost 6-0 is because she was totally unmotivated to play. And I tried my best to get her out of this type of mentality, but once I just started blocking every ball back, she wasn't interested. She got disinterested, and you don't want to be that way. You don't want to be depressed playing a tennis match. So with that depression, right, that no motivation whatsoever to play, right, then you actually start to feel that resentment. That resentment starts to come up. And what is resentment? It's basically anger, right? It's anger towards the pusher, right? Towards your opponent, but it's not really the anger where you're throwing your racket, right? It's not like a point where you missed an easy shot and then you're going to throw your racket to the fence. No, it's not that type of anger. I think with resentment, the key thing about it is that it persists. It persists in a deeper level. So say you're Kevin here, he hates, for example, he hates pushers. He hates, Hassan's game. It's not just going to be Hassan's game or Hassan himself, right? It's going to be with any pusher he perceives to be, right? It could be the next opponent, and maybe the next opponent is not even a pusher. Maybe someone who's just consistent. Well, Kevin may start to hate on them too, right? And it could be almost anybody who's consistent. He'll label them as a pusher, and that resentment is just going to be there. It's just going to be there all the time. It's not like those, again, throwing the racket. That type of anger just goes away, maybe in a couple points, maybe 3 points, right? It'll be gone. Resentment festers in for days, for months, years, right? So you go back to the comments of my last video, and maybe in this video, you'll see it, right? This is a deep-seated hatred for who knows how long these guys have been having issues with pushers, right? So you don't want that. You don't want that type of resentment. You don't want that feeling to fester every time you play a tennis match. And finally, what's going to happen when you hate pushers is that you're going to become blind to everything around you, basically. Blind to tactics, blind to what you can do to win the match, right? So again, here's Kevin. You're looking at Hassan here, and you will be blind to his strengths and weaknesses, right? Obviously, his strengths as, a pusher, right, is probably his feet, his hands, and maybe his mental toughness, right? But you'll be blind to that because you're so focused on your depression. You're so focused on resenting pushers that you won't even see his strengths and you won't see his weaknesses. Obviously, maybe he has this forehand that doesn't go well cross court, right? It could be anything, right? Maybe he never drops shots. Yeah, maybe he's a pusher, but he never drops shots, right? So you will be blind to a lot of things that Hassan is maybe good at or maybe bad at. But most importantly, right? Most importantly, you will be blind to everything you could be good at. You could be good at maybe volleying. You could be good at maybe taking the ball early. Maybe you could be good at hitting some more overheads or running around your backhand to hit a forehand. So you'll be blind to so many things because you're so focused on this hate towards pushers, right? Hate towards, could be anybody, Hassan, could be any opponent, right? It doesn't matter anymore at that point. Could be pushers, it could be non-pushers, could be like people who serve and volley. It doesn't matter because you're just so focused on their game and, for some reason you hate their game and you can't build upon that. You're blind to everything else, right? So that's really the reason why you don't want to have this type of resentment, this type of feeling towards pushers. It's not good for you. It's not good for anybody. And, if you do have that mentality, right, I urge you to really look inside your own head, really examine it, and really ask yourself if that is something that is good for you. Is that good for you, for your tennis game, for your personality, right? Or is it something that is not good for you? It's not helpful. Most often than not, right? It's just not a helpful thing. Yeah, maybe all this hate towards pushers, maybe, it's making your game better. I don't think so. It's something that's kind of preposterous to me, this kind of hate. Usually the hate is coming from players who can't beat pushers, right? That's where it's coming from. So I urge you to not have this type of mentality. Your game will go down and you're just going to go on this dark hole, this dark path. You don't want to be there. You don't want to be depressed, have this resentment, and just be blind to your own strengths and weaknesses. So try to don't hate pushers, like pushers, respect them, go after them, and I think you'll become a better tennis player. If you enjoyed this video, kindly do me a favor and hit that like and subscribe button. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.